Victor Gao, who will blink first? Is it Donald Trump or President Xi?
I can tell you with all certainty that China will not be the first to blink. So the question is who will blink? And in the coming days and weeks, we will know who blinked. And as a matter of fact, that person or that country already blinked because it reversed itself on major issues like a tariff or no tariff, etc. And that country plunged the whole stock market, the bond market, and possibly the employment situation, the inflation situation completely into chaos, causing great uncertainty, destruction, unpredictability for not only the people in the United States, but for the rest of the world. For this trade war, the United States did it, they initiated it, they imposed it on mankind as a whole. China rose up and defended its own interest. President Trump and the Americans tell the world that if I slap you in the face, don't slap me back. That's not the logic China follows. If you slap me in my face, I slap you back. That's the tit for tat. And that's why we end up with this unprecedented situation. The United States is levying a 145% tariff against Chinese export to the United States, and China now, unprecedentedly, is levying 125% against total U.S. export to China.
So toe-to-toe, you mentioned the 145% from the Americans. Where does that leave China? Because 15% of your export market goes to the U.S.
It doesn't care. I don't think it will really create too much of a storm in a teacup for China. China is the biggest country in the world by purchasing power parity. China is the largest and most powerful manufacturing economy in the world. Our manufacturing output is larger than the totality of the United States, Japan, and EU combined together. So if anyone wants to sanction China, wait until you see the consequence. China will be very happy if the United States wants to lock itself out of the largest market in the world. And if you listen to Elon Musk, he keeps saying, by the middle of this century, the size of the Chinese economy will be double the size of the United States economy. So who will come to knock on the Chinese door to ask China to open the door for it to have a play in the Chinese economic growth? The answer will be made no very soon.
Let me ask you a twin final thought, because President Xi is calling on the EU, amongst others, to join China in opposing the bullying from the United States. That's the quote. How realistic is that, closer links between the EU and China? And a secondary thought, you will know the comments from the Vice President, J.D. Vance, calling the Chinese peasants. Where does that leave US-China relations and any sort of talks between the two presidents, do you think?
Allow me to be very brief. J.D. Vance and I went to the same law school, Yale Law School. I was 20 years ahead of him, and I'm ashamed for the ignorance and the bigotry he demonstrated, because he called China the peasants financed them, the peasants sold them goods. Let me just make one simple point. The middle class in China is larger than the total population in the United States. The urban population in China is about 3 times as big as the total population of the United States. So my advice to my alumni at Yale Law School, J.D. Vance, is wake up, or you go back to school to study more diligently to avoid making yourself a fool in front of the world. Now, for China and the United States, I think right now total trade will grind to a halt. It will cause great disruption for the United States and for China. Both China and the United States will suffer the consequences. But we should also look at this one, very important. Which country is doing the right thing? Which country is doing the wrong thing? In this round of the trade war, the United States is doing the wrong thing, and China, despite of all the sufferings and costs to itself, will do the right thing. That is, defend free trade, defend the current international order, and fight against those who want to throw the international rules of the game out of the window. This is exactly what the United States is doing. And when total trade between China and the United States come to a halt in a matter of weeks, we will be entering a new era in the world, because the rest of the world will know which country initiated this, which country rose up to the occasion to fight back, and why the world is completely different from before this global trade war.